All right, everybody. We've got a special guest on the line. We're here with Connor R. I don't know if you want me to say your last name, so I'll just stick to the letter.
No, it's fine. You can say it.
So we got Connor Rich, and then obviously it's me, Double M over here on the Touch 'Em Up podcast, and we're going to be predicting the UFC 266 card. So obviously the return of Nick Diaz. I mean, that's kind of what I would say 75% of the fans who are going to watch this card are only going to watch it because they heard Nick Diaz is coming back. Because, it's a lot of casuals, I feel like. It's a great card.
That's like the people's main event.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. It's what the people want to see. And I don't know if people are going to be too happy with how this fight goes for their beloved Nick Diaz. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say who I picked yet. But, so we're going to break down this card. We're going to start on the prelims. I don't really do the early prelims and stuff because if I spent time breaking down all that, these podcasts would be 2 hours long. And I don't really have time to do that. But I guess, you're ready for it, right? You're excited about this card.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The whole card's stacked from, even in the early prelims, there's some good fights, but across the board, it's just couldn't ask for a better card.
Yeah, it's pretty stacked. I think 265 was decent. I mean, it was here, it was there. 264, that was a good card. 263, that was the Adesanya and Vettori card. Honestly, the best fight on that card was the Brad Riddell and Drew Dober fight on the prelims.
Yeah, and I was a big fan of the Moreno fight. That was a good one too. I like to see him win a championship.
Yeah.
That was really nice to see.
And I love Moreno. I think I picked Figueiredo to win their first fight, and then the second fight I picked Moreno because I'm just like, I don't know, I felt like going into that fight, Figueiredo's a great fighter, don't get me wrong. I mean, the dude's scary, but he can't make
for 125er, he is intimidating, very intimidating.
He can't make 125 pounds anymore. And the fact that they're redoing that fight, they're doing it again. I mean, if you guys bet, I would throw the house on Brandon Moreno. If he's not if he's not a huge favorite, I feel like it's going to go exactly the same way that the last one did. He's going to get dropped.
He's going to knock out this time around.
Yeah. Man, his going into that fight, man, all I was talking about was Moreno's lead hand, like that jab and that left hook, and he can he can pair it together so well. And I mean, that was literally dropped him with a fucking jab. And I'm like, well, there you go. I'm like,
the best part about that is he's the nicest guy. He's one of besides for Wonderboy, he's the nicest guy in the UFC.
He is
such a nice guy. Even when he's fighting, he has a smile on his face.
Yeah, he's crazy, man. I know Cody Garbrandt's dropping to 125. He's gonna be.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Honestly, I think he can make the weight class because he's not a big 35er. If he went to 45, I think he'd get killed because he's not that big.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But 25, I feel like he can make it. But when he gets, they gave him I don't think people know how good that Kai Kara France really is because he's kind of
is good.
His record's kind of here and there. He'll win one, he'll lose one, he'll win one, whatever. But it's dude, that is a hard fight for Garbrandt for his first fight at flyweight.
Kai Kara France, wasn't he? He was on that Ultimate Fighter season of Champions, wasn't he?
I don't.
The same season as Brandon Moreno, correct?
Yeah. You're right, because he was the first guy to get a knockout on that show. He knocked out that tall kid. I can't remember his name, but
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
and he just freaking hit him with an overhand, and he was dead, right away.
Truthfully, I feel the 125 pound division right now is not that it's at state, but I feel it's. I don't know. I feel it's starting to get to the point where the fact that Moreno and Figueiredo have to keep on fighting each other.
Yeah,
there really isn't much going on in that division because if you remember correctly, when Henry Cejudo was fighting, he actually I don't remember who he fought exactly, but he fought somebody and that was that fight determined whether or not the 125 pound division was going to continue to go forward.
Yeah, it was Dillashaw. He knocked out TJ.
Yeah, TJ Dillashaw. Yep. That was it. So the fact that they were even considering taking that division out is kind of draws questions. If you ask me, I don't see it being around for 10 more years if that was the case.
I think Garbrandt.
I don't know. It's a good division, but I don't know. I just feel do you think that Figueiredo or Moreno could make 35?
Could they make 35?
Yeah.
I think Figueiredo and Moreno could do good at 35, but I think 35 is more of a division for Davison. I honestly, after Garbrandt, before Garbrandt and fucking what's his name just fought, Rob Font, the guy I've interviewed on this podcast. I should fucking know his name. Before they fought, I thought that Figueiredo versus Rob Font was a good fight to make Figueiredo go up to 135. I mean, it's sink or swim for him. If he goes up, he has to fight a guy in like the top 3 or top 4. And who's he going to fight? Corey Sandhagen? He'll get destroyed. Sandhagen will kill Davison Figueiredo.
I agree with you. I think that Corey Sandhagen will be a champion in that division within the next 5 years too.
I think honestly, for 35 right now, I mean, I don't want to get into the Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan bullshit because we'll sit here for 3 hours and talk about that. Yeah. But in my opinion, the champion's Peter Yan. Aljamain's not a champion. He's not the champion. He's not going to win this fight. I don't want to jinx him because I love Peter Yan. Yan's like one of my favorite guys in the UFC right now. But I don't see any 35er beating Peter Yan besides I think Rob Font actually gives him his toughest fight at 35.
Really? What about you don't think Dillashaw comes close?
I just think Dillashaw, with how much he moves and his footwork and everything and how clean Yan is with his striking, I feel like he's just going to run into something. I'm not saying it won't be a great fight.
Yeah, you're right. I do agree with you on that whole footwork thing because he really does a whole lot of like his stance switches more or less.
For sure.
Than it should, I feel like.
Yeah.
And he could definitely walk into some because Peter Yan hits hard.
Yeah.
He hits very hard.
I was at the fight. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was at the fight with him and Jimmy Rivera, and that was the first UFC fight that I went to. And I just remember, like, I didn't know who Yan was going into that fight, so I watched a bunch of his shit before that card. And I go in there, and I'm just like, dude, if this guy ran through Jimmy Rivera like that, now Jimmy Rivera isn't that good anymore. He's still a good fighter. He's talented, but for him to run through Jimmy Rivera like that, I don't know. I was just like, dude, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are going to have problems with Peter Yan. And the only reason I think that Font is his hardest fight is because nobody can match the boxing of Peter Yan other than Rob Font. There's nobody in that.
I agree with you.
There's nobody in that division. I was going to say Garbrandt. That's a fight I wanted to see so bad was Garbrandt and Yan. Obviously, I feel like if it happened now, I think Yan would just play with him for like a round and then kill him.
Yeah, then he would kill him the second round. Yeah. I think that the 125-pound division is the last chance for Cody Garbrandt to be a champion again, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, you're right.
Because he's had his fair share of like high-caliber fights in the last, 2-3 years, but I don't think he competes with a TJ Dillashaw anymore, or Corey Sandhagen. I mean,
yeah, no, I think
you name it. I don't even think that he really would compete well with Aljamain Sterling. I
think he could. I'm going to be honest, and this is probably going to get me a lot of hate because I know there's a lot of people out there who like Aljamain Sterling, but I honestly don't think Aljamain Sterling, if he went back and fought Corey Sandhagen, I think he might be able to get him because Corey gave up his back a lot in the Dillashaw fight. But anybody else in that top 5, Aljamain Sterling loses to. He loses to Aldo. I think Aldo beats him.
Definitely Aldo.
I think he loses to. I think Rob Font would be a good fight, but I think he just gets boxed up. I don't really think he wins that one. Jan's gonna rip his arms off and glue him to his back. I mean, I don't know. I think Aljamain's a great fighter. He went on a long win streak. He obviously is good, but man, I don't think Aljamain is top level. Like he's top 10 for sure, but top 5, I don't think he's top 5.
Yeah, I think he needs to just hang around with the top 10 fighters because he's gonna fight Yan again, and then he's really gonna find out that like how hard Yan really hits and how good of a fighter he really is. Because that last fight, I feel like you shouldn't crown someone a champion on a win like that. Like you actually have to win.
Yeah.
To win. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
Like the fact that he was showboating that belt round after he
yep.
he cried on the canvas for 20 minutes until he realized that that he was going to win that fight and then got up like nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Aljamain Sterling too. I think he's good for that division. I don't think he's going to be a champion ever again. I think Jan's going to beat him and knock him out in dramatic fashion. If you ask me, that's just my opinion, but that's down the road, I guess.
No, I mean, yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, it's honestly, it's the next fight coming up, but I agree with you. I don't really think anyone at 35 is going to beat Peter Yan. And I've said this for a long time. Like after he beat Aldo the way that he did, I was like, dude, nobody's going to beat this guy at 35. I don't think Dillashaw beats him. I don't think Sandhagen beats him. I think Corey would be, you know what? I said Font is probably his hardest fight in terms of the boxing, but all around MMA, I think Corey Sandhagen is probably his hardest matchup.
Exactly.
But I guess
I think Aldo had a really good fight his last fight. He looks really good too. So that division is definitely stacked.
Yeah, I was honestly, I know a lot of people picked Pedro Munoz to beat Jose Aldo, but I feel like I was one of the only few people that I saw who do these podcasts and stuff who picked Aldo to win that fight, and it was just the speed. He was way too fast. He's way too fast.
Way too fast. And he looks like the Jose Aldo that fought Chad Mendez.
Yeah, dude, he
really
looked.
Did.
I would love to see him and Jan run it back. I mean, that's honestly, I think that's one of my favorite fights. Like, in my opinion, that's one of my favorite fights ever because it was competitive. They went back and forth, and then Jan just kind of drowned him. But early on, man, that fight was competitive. I mean, Aldo looked great.
He really did until the end, and then I think that the ref should have stopped it a tad bit earlier than it did because at one point Jan was just hitting them to the point where Aldo wasn't even able to he was just laying there.
Yeah. No,
late stoppage.
Yeah, it was. I think it was late, but I don't know. Well, we'll start it off with the card. We'll just get to it because we'll be here for like 3 hours if we keep talking about this stuff. But
correct.
We'll start it off on the prelims in the heavyweight division. I think this is the first fight on the prelims. There's only 3 fights on the prelims. I think there might be 4, but
there's 4.
Oh, that's right. The Roxanne Modafferi fight.
Yeah.
I'm not. We're gonna skip that one. I don't know. It's a good fight, but I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it. So up first is Shamil Abdurrahimov. He's 20-5. He is ranked number 7 in the heavyweight division. He's going up against the number 10 ranked Chris Daukaus, who's 11-3. Daukaus coming into this fight as a -180 favorite. Shamil is a +155. I think those odds should be a lot farther apart than they are. I think Daukaus should be like at least a 220 to a 250 favorite. I don't know.
Do you see that? Do you see those odds changing at all between now and then?
I think if it changes, it's probably going to go to a heavier favorite for Daukaus. But if you're going to bet on it, if anyone's going to bet on it, do it now.
Yeah,
honestly. Like I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I've seen a few fights from Shamil. I saw his Curtis Blades fight. He kind of just looked like a walking can. I know he's not. He's got a good record. He's 20-5. Honestly, I feel like if Shamil's gonna win this fight, he has to take him to the ground. I think any heavyweight that's outside of that top 5 who stands with Chris Daukaus on the feet, I think his boxing. It's not even that his boxing is good because, I mean, we know that from seeing his fights, but his hands are so quick for that heavyweight division. Aside from like the champion and even Francis Ngannou, his hands are not that quick. He's good.
They're just heavy.
Yeah, he's not that quick. I think that Daukaus has the best. He has the quickest hands and the sharpest boxing in the heavyweight division.
I agree with you, and I definitely think that that fight will not go 3 rounds. I think I give it a round to around 2 rounds. I'll give it 2 rounds.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't go over 2 rounds. I think Daukaus starts frustrating Shamil on the feet. He'll start landing 1 or 2 punches, and then he'll start chaining them together 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think it's going to be close to how the Alexei Oleinik fight went, but without the grappling because he almost got taken down a few times there. But I think I think he's just going to hurt him on the feet. He's going to get him to shell up, and then he's going to land a shot, and the ref's going to jump in.
He's definitely going to pepper him early with a lot of volume.
Yeah.
So I think the first round, I think he's gonna like probably just ease into it. I think he's gonna feel him out a little bit. And then the second round, I think it's gonna be, if it makes it that far, I think it will be completely him just peppering him with high volume and just everything. Anything and everything is gonna get thrown at him.
Yeah, I agree. I think we get a knockout here from Dawkins, and then he'll move up to. I honestly, I'm gonna be real. Before, because he was supposed to fight, Dawkins and Shamil were supposed to fight 2 times before this, and the fight kept getting canceled because of COVID and everything. But before this fight, I didn't know who Shamil Abdurrahimov was. I'd never heard of him, and he's ranked number 7.
I only remembered him from the Curtis Blades fight. That was really it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I remember that fight, but he's ranked 7th. Like, I don't know how he's ranked 7th in the division. He must have beaten at least some good guys, because.
Yeah, because you don't just get that for nothing. So, yeah, you're probably right. We just probably never followed him until he fought someone that was actually known, because, I mean, before I got really deep into watching, like, the UFC, I never really paid attention to many prelim fighters to begin with.
Yeah, it's getting so hard. It's getting so hard with the UFC because, like, I'm glad we had that week break in between the Smith card and the one before, because – like, I didn't even do predictions for that card because, man, there's cards every week. It's like there's, 20 fights on a card at any given time if you do every single fight, which I would never do. There's no chance in hell I would ever break down the early. No, I wouldn't have time. So,
that'd be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, honestly.
And you had me in the mix, and we're looking at 5 hours.
Yeah, right. That's true. So, I'm going to go with Dawkins via a... I'll stick with second round. I think you're probably onto something there. I think it's close, kind of like what you said. If you don't feel him out, land a couple jabs, use some feints, and then once he starts to get those combos flying, I think Shamil just leaves his chin open, and it's probably going to be a TKO. I think he actually
second round TKO.
Yeah, second round TKO. I think he TKOs him on the feet. I think the ref jumps in, and I think he just doesn't fall. I honestly think that's how it goes. He's on the feet, gets hit, and then whoever the ref is jumps in. If it's Herb Dean, he probably won't jump in. But
yeah, you're right, because he has a bad track record of not doing that at the right time.
Yeah, like Derek Lewis said, it's Herb Dean's fault.
Yeah.
All right, so we're both going Dawkins second round KO.
Yes, sir.
All right, up next, good fight at lightweight. We don't know 100% sure if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, I was just about to say that one's questionable, but still a good fight.
Yeah, it's a great fight. Number 8, Dan Hooker. He's 20-10. Don't let that record fool you. I know that's like a Diaz brothers type of record, but this guy's a monster. He's a lot better than people give him credit for. He's got a lot.
He's fought some good level competition.
That's the thing. And I heard a lot of people. I was saying that Hooker could get a submission here, and everybody was kind of saying that I'm like ridiculous. And it's like, if you go back before he's fought Felder, before he fought Poirier, before he fought Barbosa. That guy was locking up guillotines. I mean, if he gets a hold of your neck and can connect those hands, I think he can choke out just about anybody with that guillotine.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
And he's so good. He's good on the feet. And when it comes to this, I don't know how durable he is anymore, but yes, he was very durable before. He got that Barbosa fight. Nobody would have taken the shots that he took and stayed in that fight. I 100% think that nobody would have taken those shots at 155.
No.
I think the fight against Chandler, if Chandler landed that punch on anybody, they probably would have gotten knocked out. So I don't give him.
Yeah, that's safe to say.
I don't give him I don't discredit him for that loss. And the fight with Poirier, man, he should have been knocked out at least 5 or 10 times, and he almost knocked out Poirier. So you got to go back and think about that.
That fight, that was probably one of the best fights I've seen in a long time. They were just letting their hands fly.
Exactly, man. They went back and forth. Poirier got hurt at the end of that round. I mean, he honestly got saved by the bell. He got hurt. He got peppered. He got peppered by Hooker. Hooker landed a knee. Once that knee landed, Poirier was out. He was out for at least like a few seconds, and then the ref jumped in. If there was 10 or 15 more seconds in that fight, I think Hooker would have got the win, and we wouldn't even probably be talking about this right now.
No, definitely not. And I think that if they – well, it actually brings up a good question. You think if Hooker would have won that fight, you think that he would have fought McGregor, or you think it would have been a Poirier-McGregor rematch?
I think, well, Khabib was still no. Khabib had left when that fight happened, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think he probably would have fought Charles Oliveira because I feel like they were supposed to fight. I don't know why I keep thinking this, but I feel like they were supposed to fight at some point. Oh, you know what? No, I'm wrong. He kept calling him Charlie Olives. They were never supposed to fight. So I think that it would have been Hooker versus Oliveira. I don't think the Kevin Lee fight. I don't remember if that that Kevin Lee fight was before this because that was like the last fight before COVID happened between Kevin Lee and Charles Oliveira. So I think it probably would have been Hooker versus Oliveira, and then I think it would have been Poirier and McGregor, even if he would have lost. And then I think if that happened, then when Michael Chandler came into the UFC, he probably would have fought the winner of McGregor and Poirier. I think it would have just lined up different.
That's a safe bet.
It's tough though, man. Hooker he's very good. This is the problem with this fight for Hooker is I don't think a lot of people know this Nasrat Haqparast guy. I really don't. I think honestly, to me, he is a cleaner striker than Kelvin. He's Kelvin Gastelum if Gastelum didn't throw as many wild punches as he does.
I remember him from his last fight versus Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only time I've ever seen him fight. And then he fought Drew Dauber, but that was like the last known person that I've actually knew he fought.
I know he came into the UFC with a lot of hype around him because I think he comes out of TriStar with Faraz Sahabi. So I think Faraz was really high on him for a while.
Yeah.
But he's good. This is going to be Southpaw versus Orthodox. So I say this on my I say this on my podcast all the time. This is a great fight. It's a tough fight. I would not bet on this fight. If you're betting, just because of Dan Hooker's whole situation with the visa and him maybe not being able to make the fight, and then, we got Nasrat Haqparast, which, condolences out to him because he lost his mother right before this fight, and he still is coming. He's still coming in to fight. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he's still going to show up. So I think both of these guys.
A lot of respect to him for that, honestly.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are in a tough spot. Hooker, it's a must win for him. If he loses to Nasrat, who's ranked, I think, number 11. Let me see. I have it written down right here. Oh, he's not even ranked. So a guy outside of the top 15 fighting the number 8 ranked Dan Hooker. If Hooker loses this fight, I mean, he's honestly screwed. Like, you lose this and you're kind of fucked if you're Dan Hooker. Like, yeah. So Hooker has to come into.
What was that? 2 losses in a row?
Yeah. Yeah. Poirier and Chandler, which I guess you don't really want, unless your name's Conor McGregor or Khabib or Charles Oliveira. Those are not the worst 2 losses to have on your record. But I mean, I think here's how it goes. When it comes to straight punches, kicks, and like keeping it at distance, Dan Hooker wins that fight 10 out of 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
100%. If it goes into the boxing range and, it's just about the speed of the hands and the combinations, Nasrat Haqparast wins that fight. Dan Hooker has to mix it up, and Nasrat's a wrestler. He is a good grappler. He's got good defensive wrestling, good offensive wrestling. I don't really think we're going to see any wrestling on either side unless Nasrat shoots because he's getting hurt on the feet. And in that case, I think it would line up for Hooker's guillotine that he likes to do.
He's very good at it too, so that's definitely a threat.
It's not a place you want to be against Dan Hooker. I think based on the fact that Nasrat is all about the rolling underneath shots and throwing the right hook into the straight left or the right hook or the left uppercut, he's good at pairing them up together. He likes to go with the uppercut and then go with the hook on the same side, just to kind of trick you up so you don't know which way to move your head. And I feel like with his head movement and his rolling underneath, nobody's got a better knee up the middle than Dan Hooker. And
agree with you on that one.
And I think he's either going to run into that knee, or if he can't close the distance, Hooker's just going to be able to chop that leg. He's going to chop the inside low kick because they're opposite stances, so it's going to go outside. It's not going to be outside low kick because that would be both in the same stance. So he's going to chop that inside leg. He's going to have to make sure he sets it up, though, because if you throw a naked low kick against this guy, I mean, I think Nasrat can catch him on the chin, and with Hooker not keeping his hands up, it can be a problem.
Definitely. It's such a hard fight to predict, because I feel like they're both coming into this fight, especially Dan Hooker. He's in die mode, so I feel like I could definitely see this fight going all 3 rounds. I definitely see Hooker winning, and if it goes to a decision, it'd be a 29-28 decision, if you ask me. Yeah. That's my overall opinion on that fight, because between the whole visa situation and the fact that he's on a 2-fight losing streak, I feel like this is definitely do or die for him. So I do see him winning, though, but I don't see him getting a finish. So
you think it's gonna go 3 rounds and he'll get the decision?
I think it's gonna go 3 rounds, and I really hope it does, because this fight would definitely would call for millions of fireworks. I just feel like it's going to be a really good fight. I mean, this is a main card type of fight, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think this could have easily made the main card. I think you could have put that Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo on the prelims, and that could have been one of your headliners, or you could have made Merab and Moraes, which I think is the next fight we're going to talk about after this. You could have made that the headliner of the prelims. I mean, everybody wants to watch Marlon Moraes, and I mean that's they don't do that guy any fucking favors when it comes to matchups. I'll say that. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Hooker here. I think don't bet on this fight though. Like if you're out there listening to my picks to bet on, normally my picks for bets are they're all right. I wouldn't say I got the best track record. I don't bet though, so I wouldn't know. But I think stay away from this fight. If you're gonna bet on it, bet that it goes. I would say bet that it goes to decision. I think there might be a finish, but I could easily see it going all 3 rounds, like you said. I'm going to go with, I think Hooker starts chopping that low kick real early. I think it makes it a little bit harder for Nasrat to close that distance and land those heavy shots. I think he's going to hurt Dan Hooker at one point. I think one of those punches are going to land just because Hooker doesn't keep his hands up. And, but overall, I think those low kicks are going to leave Nasrat a little bit more stationary. And I think he's going to run into, I don't want to call this knee, because I've called this knee finish for Dan Hooker a few times on my podcast.
It is a good knee, though. He does have that knee is very, very a very useful tool of his, because he uses a lot against Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, he's just so long.
Actually, he uses it against everybody.
He's so long, and with guys who like to roll their head, and with guys who like to slip and roll with the boxing combinations, it's a dangerous. It's dangerous. I mean, like you said, he almost landed it on Poirier a few times. I'll go with the knee. Why not? All right, I'll go with a.
Yeah, I like the prediction. I do like it.
I'll go with a 3rd round knee up the middle for Dan Hooker.
Okay, I like it.
And you're going decision 29-28?
Yeah. It's just what I'm feeling, honestly. I was going to go for a finish, but I definitely think it's just going to be a decision win.
I could see that for sure. We're back now after the prediction for Hooker versus Haqparast, and we're going to wrap it up for the prelims with the bantamweight fight between the number 6 ranked knockout artist, and that's pretty much all he is. Magic Marlon Moraes comes into this fight 23 wins, 8 losses, and 1 no contest, going up against Merab the Machine Dvalishvili. Honestly, this is a tough fight for both guys in different areas, but based on the fact that Marlon is so explosive, this is a 1-round fight for Marlon Moraes. It's a 3-round fight for Merab. And that's
I was just going to say something very similar to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I usually start off with my thoughts, so why don't you start this one? What are your thoughts on this? How do you think it's going to go? Give me the rundown.
I personally think that similar to the Dan Hooker fight, I think that Marlon is going to come into this with a lot of do or die motive because, I mean, as you know, he's had his fair share of losses in the past. He's had a victory since looks like 2019 against Jose Aldo.
Yep.
So I mean, it was a marketable win, but he also has lost 2 in a row in his last fight against what I want to say was Rob Font.
Yeah.
So his last fight against Rob Font, he also obviously lost by TKO. So a lot of these fighters that are on these two fight like losing streaks,
Mm-hmm.
I think they come into to their next fight, especially when it's a pay-per-view fight like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
They're just they got the do or die mindset. So I think he's going to come to this fight very. He's going to do a lot of walking down. Like I going to throw a lot of volume right out the gate. I definitely see him getting a knockout within a round. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that he's due for a first round knockout, and if he doesn't get one in the first round, it definitely will go to a decision. And at that point, I think I still give it to him, but I think it'll be very close. I think it'll be similar to the Dan Hooker fight. I think 28-27. I think that's how that one ends. If
28.
he doesn't get a knockout,
Yeah.
I think he's going to start out with moving forward. I think he's going to feel him out for a few minutes. I think he's going to, chop that leg a little bit, and I think within the first 3 minutes of the first round, I think he hits him with a pretty hard combination, and I think he TKOs him.
I could see it. I like the pick. I think Marlon is coming into this fight with a lot of like you said, this is kind of do or die for him. If he ever wants to get back up to a title, he has to win here. This is a very, very tough fight for him. Merab is a guy who doesn't get tired, and Moraes is a guy who gets really tired if you don't wilt to his pressure. We didn't know that until he fought Henry Cejudo. And if you go back and you watch that fight, I mean, Marlon Moraes, he beat the shit out of Henry Cejudo in the first round. I
thought that he was going to win that fight in the first round.
Yeah, he was ripping his leg to bits. He was landing combinations on the feet, and he just got tired because Henry kept moving forward. He kept putting the pressure on him. And, eventually Marlon was like, man, I can't do this shit anymore. And you'll notice with Marlon is once he gets hit with a good shot, his whole dynamic changes in a fight. Like
it shifts to survival mode almost.
Yeah, he doesn't have. I'm not going to sit here and say he has a bad chin because he doesn't have a terrible chin. But the problem is, if you hit him with a good shot, he's either going to come forward and just try to land those heavy overhands and knock you out, or he's going to kind of go into his shell and he's going to shake his arms out and he's going to move around for a little bit. That's exactly what he did against Rob Font. He started off with the takedowns. He wrestled heavy in that fight, which was a good decision for Marlon. I don't think it was a bad idea to wrestle, but I don't think he expected Font's defensive grappling to be as good as it was. And once they stood up, I think if you time it, it's about 30 seconds from when they stand up to when the finish happens for Rob. Like the minute they got back up to the feet and Font just started shrugging his shoulders and he landed like 1 or 2 jabs, Marlon was out of it. He was done. After that first jab landed really clean and Marlon kind of shook his head a little bit, that fight was over.
A little bit, and he went to survival mode, and it was the beginning of the end, honestly.
Yeah, and I think Marlon has to come into this fight, and he has to. You can't go too crazy because you don't want to just get tired like you normally do. But even if he stays reserved in the first round, I think he's still going to get tired. It's just how Marlon is. He's got a lot of muscle. He's a heavy dude.
He's a very built individual. I will say that because when he came in the fight against Henry Cejudo, that was one of the first things that pretty much everyone noticed. He came in with a very good physique and definitely looked like he was in shape.
Yeah, I think
very strong.
The thing with Merab is he's not a talented striker. I think anybody who watches MMA even remotely can tell that he's not a good striker. But the problem is he can chain those takedowns and the punches to takedowns and the takedowns to punches, and you don't know what's happening. He'll throw a kick, he'll throw a lead high kick, and he'll go right in for your hips. Like a lot of his
on the ground,
a lot of his takedowns, he'll chain them together. Like he'll go for a double leg, you'll stop it. He'll go for a head on the inside single, you'll stuff it. He'll go to the body lock, he'll trip you. It's kind of like a Khabib. I mean, they're both similar. I think they both come from the same backgrounds. And I just think Marlon, if he doesn't get it done in the first round, he's going to get 29. Honestly, I'm going to go 29-26. I think that after the first round, it's 10-8 for Marlon.
Okay. All right.
So I want to pick Marlon because I want to see him win. Like,
so
I want to see him go back to, the top of the division, but this is a tough fucking fight for him. Rob Font was a tough fight. Corey Sandhagen's was a tough fight. They're not doing Marlon Moraes any favors in the UFC.
Well, I mean, if you can get past this fight, well, definitely it won't be any easier going forward. So you might as well just get used to it.
Yeah, I'm going with
that division is. I mean, it's just full of absolute monsters. So no matter who he fights in the top, anyone in the top 15, really, top 10, I'd say.
Yeah,
is a tough fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think once Marlon got figured out, it was kind of the same story every fight after that. Like if you don't, he's got a really good lead switch kick. If I'm Marlon, I'm throwing that shit like 5 times right at the beginning of the fight. Like I'm just trying to get him out of there as quickly as I can. But you can't overcommit against a guy like Merab because you're just going to run right into his takedowns. You're going to give up your hips. And the problem with this fight is Moraes has a very, very good guillotine. But the way Merab shoots his takedowns, he doesn't really leave himself open for a guillotine because he shoots a lot of his stuff either up against the cage or he shoots from the body lock or he shoots from that head on the inside single leg. And those don't really give you the opportunity to lock up that guillotine choke if they shoot. So I think Merab wins this, but I am pulling for Moraes to get a first round finish. Like I want it to happen. I really
hope so too. I would love to see it. Would love to see him get a knockout. But whatever, if you can get a first round finish, that would be ideal.
Yeah. So I'm going with Merab to get the win via, I think I said 29-20. I'll go 29-27. I don't want to completely shit on Moraes. So 29-27 unanimous decision. And then what is your official pick?
I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna say Marlon decision 28-27.
Okay. Marlon decision. Yeah. I like it. It's brave with the decision from
that kind of like doing a prediction and making it like a first round knockout. I don't know. After 2 losses in a row, you got to go with the safe bet and just say a decision.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's man.
I mean, it's kind of the same story with Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Like he went into that fight against Alessio Di Chirico, and I think everybody picked against him, and then he gets a first round knockout, and now everybody's back on him saying, "Oh, he's so good, he's so this." It's like Marlon has to come out of this fight with a signature performance, and if he doesn't, even if he wins a close decision, it doesn't do much for him. So I feel like he needs to get the finish, but I like him.
Need to get the finish for the purpose of, coming off a 2-fight losing streak. I think a finish would do him some justice.
Yeah, I agree. But all right, well, there you go. That's one fight we're disagreeing on. We were pretty.
I was just about to say that was the first fight that we didn't agree on.
All right. So yeah, now we'll move to the main card, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight because I'm going to be honest with you. It's the number 1 ranked Jessica Andrade. She's coming in here 21-9, going up against the number 5 ranked Cynthia Calvillo. 9 wins, 2 losses, 1 no contest or 1 draw, whatever the hell it is. Cynthia Calvillo has never impressed me. I'm not saying she's not a good fighter. A lot of people call her like the female Diaz brothers. Like she's just a lot of pace and a lot of pressure and pushing you backwards. And
I've heard that, yeah.
It's kind of, she's not technically sharp in any one area, but she's good enough everywhere to make it a tough fight for you. And I just think Jessica Andrade is too powerful for a lot of these girls at 125. I think obviously, what the hell? The girl who's fighting on the damn card. Oh, Valentina Shevchenko. I think Valentina's a different beast. And even she had, I mean, it was a dominant win for her, but you could tell how strong Andrade was just from that fight. She was able to kind of throw her around in some clinch positions. So I'm going to go with Andrade here. I think it's similar to the Caitlin Chukagian fight. I think they both come to the center. I think Calvillo tries to put a little bit too much pressure on Andrade, and then she gets caught with a shot, gets hurt, and we get a first-round TKO for Andrade.
Yeah. Honestly, that's exactly what I'm thinking, too, especially because Andrade has just, like, an absolute – like, if you look at the records, the experience difference is, like, it's, like, doubled. Like, 21 to a 9-2-1 record. I just feel like the experience is definitely going to be noticeable. I just think it'll be a first or second round knockout.
Yeah, I agree, and we're gonna just move on because, like we said, we got a lot of fights on this card. But Andrade's first round KO. I mean, there's not much else to say. She's too strong for a lot of these girls, and I think you'll see that the longer she fights at 125.
I want to see her and Shevchenko run it back eventually.
I want to see Rose and Shevchenko fight so bad, but they train together. So
they don't do that too often unless one of the two leaves the gym. Like in the
Gilbert Burns and Usman.
Usman
and Burns.
Yep, that was like the only instance that's ever happened. Really, I mean. I guess Colby Covington and George Masvidal, but they haven't fought yet.
They need to fight. Need to fight, yeah. Jorge's next fight needs to either be Colby. Well, Colby's fighting for the title, so.
Who you can even put against George next, honestly?
Leon Edwards, man. What the fuck? Why? What is taking so long for them?
They already fought.
No, they never did. No. What's his name? The Masvidal punched Leon Edwards backstage, but they never fought.
Yeah, no, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah. Oh, see, you got one over on me because it went right over my head.
It's all right.
But I want to see that fight. I honestly think Edwards wins that fight pretty decisively. Oh,
yeah. I totally agree with you on that one. And hopefully that'll be something that happens in the future. But I don't know. I feel like I don't see Jorge Masvidal fighting anytime before the end of the year. Like before 2022.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna say this, and I say this to everybody because everybody was shitting on me for the pick that I made for this fight. But when Usman and Masvidal fought the second time, I don't think anybody picked Usman to win by knockout. I looked everywhere, and I remember on the podcast I said he's training with Trevor Whitman. That guy's hands are going to be so much better in this fight, which they're still not great, but they're a lot better than they were. And I just thought that like he was going to get caught with a shot because he was going to disrespect the striking of Usman. I mean, he did. You watch the fight, he kept his hands down the whole time. He'd throw a hook here and there, and then he'd kind of just move around and be like, whatever, stick his tongue out. And honestly, I some guy hit me up on Twitter, and he was like, if you think Usman's going to knock out Masvidal, you're on some type of shit. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. And then after the fight, I remember I found his tweet and I replied, and I'm like, you doing okay, man? I'm like, how's Gamebred doing? Are you okay? And he just never replied. But I was like, I have to, sometimes I got to give him shit back.
That was one of the fastest, like, jabs I've ever seen in, like, the welterweight division in the last 3 years, probably.
Yeah, the way he set up that straight left hand, I mean, it was pretty dominant.
Disgusting. It was, and the way that George's his head just whipped,
yeah,
but flew off. It was unreal.
He was
legitimately folded like a lawn chair.
Yeah, and you could see like all the sweat fly off his head when he got hit. It was a bad one.
I would never have imagined that they may have fallen back yards. I don't know, like. pretty tough. I just didn't see him get knocked out, but I think crazy thing happens, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, up next, we'll go to the heavyweight division, but we're both going with Andrade here, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you going first round KO or what?
I'm going to go with second round just because I think you said first round. So
okay. All right. All right. Okay. I like it.
At least one of us will be right if it happens.
Yeah, or we'll be completely wrong and Calvillo will win. All right. So let's move to the heavyweight division. I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight either because it's kind of either going to go one way or another. And I think it's obviously the number 4 ranked Curtis Razor Blades. He's 14-3 overall, going up against the number 6 ranked Jairzinho Rosenstrike, who's 12-2 overall as a professional. This is grappler versus striker. If Curtis Blades gets in on the hips of Jairzinho and he gets in on him over and over again, he wins this fight 10 out of 10 times.
Definitely.
Rosenstrike has shown to not be that good of a defensive grappler. If you go back and watch the Alistair Overeem fight, he got taken down and out-wrestled by Overeem for 24 minutes and 55 seconds. And then he knocked him out in the last few seconds. He knocked him out at the bell. And I have never really been super impressed with Curtis Blades. Not that I don't think he's a good fighter, because I don't want to sit here and say I think he's shitty. He's good. He's got good wrestling. He can push a pace.
He has the one good tool, and that's wrestling.
Yeah, he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC now that, DC is gone, and he's definitely probably the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. But the problem is, if you got heavy hands on you, and you have good takedown defense, you're gonna knock out Curtis Blades. And
against Derek Lewis,
that's the thing. Like, he couldn't even really get takedowns against Lewis. Lewis showed that he had good takedown defense, and he just didn't set up the takedown. Lewis wound up that punch from frickin' Houston, Texas. I mean, you could literally, if you pause it, you could see him winding up for the uppercut. Yeah. Like, there was no sharp striking. It was no hidden behind anything. He just timed it, and he caught him with the uppercut, and he knocked him out. And
that uppercut was fast for someone his size.
It was a rough uppercut. It was pretty bad. And
I never would have imagined that fight going. I mean, I imagined it going that way, but I didn't imagine it being like that.
No. I picked Curtis Blades. I thought that he was going to be able to kind of do what DC did to Derek Lewis, and obviously I was wrong. And I'm kind of glad that I was, because I love Derek Lewis. I'm happy he got a shot at the title, but his balls were a little too hot for that one.
Yeah,
and he got pretty much outclassed. But in this fight, Jairzinho, he's very good on the feet. He's not the most his stuff that he doesn't look pretty. I'm not going to sit here and say he's like a Cyril Gane when it comes to striking in the heavyweight division. But that guy can switch stances very well. He hides his combinations very good. He'll throw like a lead uppercut, and he'll step into southpaw, and he'll land that right hook, but he'll step into a different stance, so you don't really see where the power is coming from. And I think based on that, the way that he's able to – and he's got a really good ability to kind of check a kick and then come back and fire an inside or outside kick of his own. He's very good at kind of leaning with a kick that you throw, or leaning with a punch and then timing it with an inside or an outside low kick, and then he'll come back with his combinations. I think Derek Lewis, he's not even fighting. I think Curtis Blades leaves himself open, and I think he wins the first round off of his wrestling. I think in the second round, he again shoots a sloppy takedown, and he gets knocked out. I think he gets hit on the
another knockout.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going with Jairzinho. I think second round he times one of Curtis Blades' entries and catches him on the chin and knocks him out.
I'm going to actually not disagree, but I'm going to go with Curtis Blades on this one. I think his wrestling is going to overpower this entire fight. It'll definitely go to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wins 30-29 or 28. I'm going to go with 28.
Okay.
I think he's going to secure a lot of takedowns.
Mm-hmm.
Takedowns and have a lot of control.
Yeah, all right. I agree. I think if Curtis Blades wrestling starts to work and it works early and often, then it's just going to be 10 takedowns for Curtis Blades. Like he's just going to.
I think he's going to tire him out on the ground to the point where when they get to the feet, there's just no energy. He's just going to keep going for takedowns, and it's just going to he's going to wear him down. Rosenstrike's going to it's just going to be it. I think it's going to be a very boring fight, but I think it's going to be a very technically wrestling fight.
Yeah, I think you could be completely right on this one, and I seem to always pick against Curtis Blades, and the one time I picked Curtis Blades was against Derek Lewis, and he got knocked out. So I'd have no faith in the durability of Curtis Blades. And Biggie Boy is probably the second hardest puncher or third hardest puncher behind Derek Lewis at heavyweight. So
definitely,
I feel like he's just going to get caught. And that's going to be it. He's going to get hit on the chin and knocked out in the second round. All right. Yeah, I mean, you got decision for Blades, or you got a knockout for Curtis Blades, right? Or you said decision, didn't you?
I said decision, and he's going to just going to out-wrestle him.
I could see it going that way 100%. This is a really hard fight to call because it's either going to go one way or the other, and it could go either way so easily. It's so hard to decide.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, the fight that everybody seems to be wanting to see. The real main event. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not.
5-rounder too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 5-rounder. It was originally going to be at welterweight. Now they moved it to 185. Kind of makes you question what's going on with Nick Diaz, what's going on with his camp. Can he not make weight? Like, it obviously came from the Diaz side because if you listen to a lot of the interviews from Robbie Lawler, you can hear that he's in shape. He said he's going to come in underweight, like he was ready to go. He was in good shape for this fight. He trained really hard. I think Diaz, part of me thinks it's not even that he can't make the weight. It's that he doesn't want to, so he asked if they would move it to middleweight. And since he's such a big star and this is such a big fight, they kind of just did him a favor. It's either that or he just couldn't make weight. There was a rumor.
I just don't think he wanted to cut weight at all. I feel like he came up with the idea last second, like, oh, let's just ask if we can go to middleweight. Why not?
Yeah.
My first fight in 5+ years or whatever it is, 5 years.
Yeah.
I think they'll do whatever I want them to do. So
pretty much. Yeah, I think that's exactly.
I don't think it'll change much within the fight. I mean, you're not going to notice really. Like if you were, like if they didn't announce what the weight was beforehand, I feel like no one would even notice. No,
I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. They're both 170ers fighting at 185. Lawler has more experience at middleweight because I think he fought in middleweight in Strikeforce. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right.
It's one of those things where here's how the fight's going to go. Either Nick Diaz is going to get knocked out in the first round. I think Lawler comes into this fight with a lot of pent up frustration and anger, kind of like the Ben Askren fight. Which he didn't lose, in my opinion. I'm going to go on a...
He definitely did not lose that fight.
And the last time, I have it written down here, the last time that Lawler got submitted, because I know everyone's going to say the jiu-jitsu of Nick Diaz is going to play a big factor in this fight, which I think it would be very smart of Diaz to start going for takedowns and go for takedowns as early as you can to try to tire out Robbie Lawler, because the takedowns seem to work very good for Neil Magny. That's kind of how he controlled the entire fight. But if you go back and you look at Robbie Lawler's record, the last time Lawler lost by submission was on January 29th of 2011 against Jacare Souza, which you can't fault him. And that actually happened on a Strikeforce card where Nick Diaz was the main event against Cyborg.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and another thing, this fight is happening 209 events since the first fight. Or 209 weeks or 209 months.
It was weeks. I've seen it on Twitter. They could not have planned that any better.
Yes. It's
just wild how that worked out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm I went back and forth because originally I said I thought Robbie Lawler was going to come in here, hurt Nick Diaz early and finish him. I think that's definitely a possibility. I think Robbie is definitely going to be the more polished fighter coming into this fight. I think he's better. He's had way more competition since, the whole marijuana suspension thing happened for Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz's last fight was against Anderson Silva at UFC 183. I think if Diaz wins this, it's going to be the fact that he survives the early barrage of Robbie Lawler in the first round, and then he just kind of lands his pity pat. He lands the pop, 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 rip to the body, pop, 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 rip to the body, go up top.
Pop with a couple stalkers.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how he's going to win. It's going to be the fact of him being more active and him putting the pressure on Robbie Lawler. And honestly, I think that can work against the Robbie Lawler that we know now, because if you put pressure on Lawler in his last 2, 3, 4 fights, he can't seem to get on the gas after you already take control. If you start early and you're taking control against Robbie Lawler, and this is a 5-round fight, so I could see it going a little bit different. I think that changes a little bit of it, but the fact that it's 5 rounds, it could play into the case of Robbie. But if he gets behind after he hurts Nick Diaz in the first round, because I do think he's going to hurt Nick Diaz at one point in this fight, I definitely think he's going to crack him on the chin and probably. I think he's going to hurt him in the first round. Yeah, I think
that's crazy that they say that, because I was actually I was thinking about that earlier. Like, I really have only seen Nick Diaz hurt maybe a handful of times. Both the Diaz brothers, for that matter, like they're very durable. They both are extremely durable, but Robbie Lawler does have very, very heavy when he lands.
Yeah, and I think it could be a similar situation to the Ben Askren fight. Not like it ending in controversy or anything, but I think
I didn't like the way that one ended.
I think it starts off, and I think Robbie goes for broke. Like the minute this fight starts, I think he runs across the cage, kind of like he did against Donald Cerrone in their fight. I think he just goes for knees in the clinch. He starts throwing his left hand, starts throwing uppercuts, and I think Diaz gets hurt. I think he weathers the storm, kind of like the Paul Daly fight. And I think he starts using his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. I don't necessarily think he's going to get takedowns, but I think he's going to be able to tie up Robbie Lawler if Lawler jumps on him on the ground. And I think he's going to get his wits about him, kind of, be able to recover a little bit. And then the second round, that's when Nick will start to pick it up. He'll push him back. He'll just go pop, 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 pop. And I think that's going to win him the second and the third round. So I think we're going to get a 29-20, or well, it's a 5-rounder. So I think since it's 5 rounds,
45.
No,
49-47.
Since it's 5 rounds, I'm going to go with Nick to get a finish.
Yeah.
If it was 3 rounds, I think he wins 2 out of the 3 rounds via decision. But since it's 5, I think Nick Diaz, just based on volume and accumulation, I think Robbie starts not being able to defend himself too well, and the ref jumps in. And I think we get I'm going to go with a 4th round TKO for Nick Diaz.
I'm definitely gonna agree with you on the 4th round aspect, because that guy's cardio is insane. I mean, he just did a triathlon, so he's definitely in good shape. But I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I think he's going to get a 4th round submission.
Okay, so we got cut off again. And again, it only lets me go for 30 minutes at a time. But go ahead and wrap up with what you were saying. You said 4th round submission for Nick Diaz.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I'm not sure exactly what type of sub he's going to use, but I definitely see him getting a submission. I mean, and by C, I mean I would like him to get a submission. I think that's my ideal first fight back in the UFC win for Nick Diaz, and I really hope that happens. But either way, I do see him winning this fight, and I have high hopes that it's going to be a 4th round submission.
I could definitely see that.
I guess I call this, man. I'm gonna call a triangle.
Looks over at Robbie, goes, "Stockton, motherfucker, Stockton."
You're gonna call it triangle?
Just for the. I'm just gonna throw that guess out there.
I could see it. I think that's probably one of the most likely submissions he would get. Either that or a rear naked choke. I couldn't really see him getting any. If he pulled off like a go-go plotter or something, that'd be kind of crazy.
That would be kind of crazy.
So I kind of like how that pick went. I think we got 4th round TKO and a 4th round submission for Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that we both went with Nick Diaz. I originally thought one of us was going to pick Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, no, I was leaning for like a couple days. I was leaning towards him. I realized that I'm a big Diaz fan between Nate and Nick, so I'm gonna go with Nick. I can't go against him.
Here's a question, and we'll go with this for a little bit longer. If Diaz wins this fight, there's a rumor going around, and obviously it was started by Chael Sonnen, so I don't want to put any real credit into that, but he said there is a plan for him to call out Khabib to come back for a fight at 170.
That'd be an interesting fight, but I feel like if Khabib's gonna fight anybody at 170, I would love to see him fight Usman.
I think so too. I think Usman at 170.
Fighting a Diaz brother. I think he's gotta come back for a lot more than that, like ESP or an Usman. I mean, it's a good call out, but it would never happen. I think that Nick Diaz is gonna fight. I feel like he could fight Jorge Masvidal if he wins.
I'm glad that you said that because that's exactly what I was going to say next. I think if he wins this fight, he's only going to fight one more time, and it's going to be against Jorge to try to avenge his brother's loss because the controversial ending to that fight.
Yeah, and Nick Diaz didn't quite like how Jorge said he didn't get a chance to baptize Nate, so that's another reason why I feel like Nick really wants to fight him too. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see him fight Khabib, but that's just unrealistic. It's just not. I just don't see that happening. Khabib's gonna keep his promise in that fight. That's just how it's gonna.
I agree. I don't think Khabib needs to fight. There are some people I'd like to see him fight. Like I'd love the Usman match. I honestly think Khabib wins that. I think just because I'm going to go out and say this, and people are probably going to disagree with me, but I know I talked up Usman striking a little bit ago, and he is getting a hell of a lot better. But against a Khabib who's going to throw the same type of game plan at Usman that he likes to use, but do it with a lot more efficiency and a lot more technical, like he's going to do it a lot more technical than Usman would. I feel like Khabib's striking would actually work better for him against Usman than Usman's would against Khabib.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I like.
I just don't see him fighting. Like, it would have to take either a lot of money, which I also don't see Khabib like thinking that to go against the promise that he made. Mm-hmm. But there has to be something very big on the line for him to back and fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Masvidal is the best fight for Nick Diaz. If he wins, it's going to be Masvidal versus Nick Diaz. They're going to do it.
Here's a wild card. Anderson Silva comes back and he fights Anderson Silva again.
I mean, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing it, but
that's another one that probably wouldn't happen regardless. I think Jorge Masvidal is the best bet here.
I think I'd love to see Nick and Anderson fight again just because the first fight was so it was basically one-sided, but there was a lot of funny moments in that fight. I think Yeah. And then he friggin' walked all the way across the cage and put his back on the cage and was like, come on, we're going to do your game for a little bit.
Yeah.
But if anybody fights Anderson Silva next, it should be Jake Paul so we can end that whole charade going on with.
You started.
Yeah, I can't, because if we start talking about that, we'll be here for a long time.
And I'll get very, very heated, very fast.
Yeah, I don't know. Jake Paul is just, it's Jake Paul. That's all I got to say. But, all right.
I really wish it wasn't like that, but yeah, you're right.
I really wish Woodley would have done his job in there, but I had a feeling he was going to lose that one.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move to the women's flyweight championship fight with the most dominant champion in the UFC, Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko. She comes in here with a record of 21 victories and 3 defeats. She's a minus 1250 favorite going up against the number 3 ranked Lucky Lauren Murphy, who comes in as a plus 750. And she is, I think her record's 15-4. Yeah, 15-4. Go ahead and kick us off. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, we already know what's going to happen. Shevchenko's just going to have another successful title defense. That's the bottom line. First 1.5 rounds. I give her 1.5 rounds to knock her out.
I agree. I think
that's all I got to say.
Here's something I will give Lauren Murphy a little bit of credit for. Is she a good striker? No. Is she technical on the feet? No, but she picks her shots pretty well. Her jab, her cross, they're decent. When she throws punches, she doesn't overextend. I think that could play a little bit of a factor for Lauren Murphy the longer the fight goes. The one thing I will give her, man, is she is durable. That girl can take a beating and keep on going. And
that's why I said 1.5 rounds, because I think that she's gonna definitely be durable for the first hard 5 or 6 shots that she's gonna take.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you could be 100% right. I'm gonna give Lauren Murphy a little bit longer. I'm gonna say that she actually wins 1 round. I don't think Lauren Murphy's gonna win the fight. I'm not going to sit here and say that she's going to win, because I don't think she's going to win. But I do think that her forward pressure and her strength, I know Valentina's probably stronger, but I think that when it comes to the clinch positions, I think she's going to be able to get Valentina down at least once. Jennifer Maia got her down in their fight. And once she got her to the ground, Valentina wasn't really able to get back up. So she ended the round on her back. I feel like she's going to get her down in the first round. And then when it comes to the second round, she's going to get lit up on the feet. She's going to get dropped, and she's going to get finished in the crucifix position, just like Jessica Andrade did.
Yeah. I'm going to up my stakes a little bit. I know that this probably won't happen, but it's always cool to throw these wild guesses out here. I think Shevchenko is going to knock her out with a head kick. I'm going to call it. I think she's going to knock her out with a head kick.
Dude, that could 100% happen. I like the pick. If she knocks her out on the feet, I do think it would be a kick. So I like the head kick call.
She's going to set it up to with a couple with a jab, hook, and then something to the body. Mm-hmm. And as she's going down to block, I think that's when that's going to come around.
So kind of like the Jessica I knockout. You think it'll be that brutal?
I hope so, but I
yeah.
I guess we'll see. But I'm just gonna. I like to throw a little bit of curveball on these predictions now.
Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of cool to do.
Yeah,
especially with this co-main and the main event coming up. So I'm gonna do a little bit of add a little curveball to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think she could definitely get a knockout via head kick. I like the first round call. I think you could definitely be right there. I'm going to stick with the second round ground and pound TKO. I just think Valentina's stronger. Huh?
From the crucifix?
Yeah, crucifix position. Just because she got it against Andrade, and once she got it, it was kind of over. And same with the Caitlin Chukagian fight. She got both of her last 2 fights in the same position, and once she was there, the fight was over. So I like that position for Valentina, and I think after this fight, you got to fight Amanda Nunes again. I mean, I'm sorry, there's nothing else for you to do.
Yeah, honestly.
All right, well, we'll get to the fight that we both want to talk about, the big fight, the main event.
And now, for those in attendance and UFC fans watching around the world, this is the moment you truly all have been waiting for. Live from the sold-out T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
The featherweight championship, you got the champion Alexander the Great Volkanovski. He's a -170 favorite, coming in 22 victories, 1 defeat, going up against the number 2 ranked reformed Brian T. City Ortega coming off a really impressive win and a dominant win over the Korean Zombie. He comes into this fight 15 wins, 1 loss. He's a plus 150 underdog. Combined records for both of these guys, you got 37 wins and 2 losses. So it's probably one of the highest level fights you're going to get in the UFC. It's definitely one of the best fights you're going to get in the featherweight division. I'll let you kick it off.
Sounds good. All right. So personally, as you probably could have guessed, I would love to see Brian Ortega win. I just think that he has really came a long way since that Max Holloway fight. I feel like his striking's improved night and day. But I just really don't think that it's going to work out in his favor. I think Volkanovski is going to win again. I think that Volkanovski is just powerful, just too technical, too fast. You name it for this guy. I do think Brian Ortega is very, very powerful and very controlling on the ground. Like his jiu-jitsu is unmatched compared to Volkanovski. So if it gets on the ground, he might get in some trouble. But I think it goes all 5 rounds, and I think that Volkanovski wins via 50-49. But here's what I will say: I would love to see Brian Ortega win only because he wins and then he gets his rematch against Max Holloway. That's what I really would love to see.
Okay.
Because Max was really, really robbed of his last title shot against Volkanovski. I definitely think that Holloway won.
Okay. Well, that's something we disagree on. So it's funny you brought that up, which I figured you would because we're talking about this fight. But I just rewatched Volkanovski and Holloway, and I know you did too because I saw you post it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I watched it today, and here's how I scored it. You can disagree with me because I know a lot of people probably do because I know everybody picked Holloway to win. Holloway won the first round. He obviously got the knockdown with a head kick. That was a close round, but I did give it to Holloway because if it's a close round and you get a knockdown, I mean, you win the round. It doesn't matter who you are. Second round, I gave to Holloway. I thought he kind of did the same thing as he did in the first round. He dropped Volkanovski twice. So he wins that round too. I thought Volkanovski came back, and I thought he wiped out the last 3 rounds. I had Volkanovski 48-47. I think third round easily went to Volkanovski. I think fourth round was pretty close, but the problem with this fight for Max was Volkanovski, once he started being able to push Max backwards, Max kind of went back to the same way he did in the first fight. And it's not that he didn't do good. He did. The body kicks for Max worked very well. He landed a lot of really good kicks to the body. I think that's something that Ortega is going to look for in this fight. But he got 2 takedowns in the fourth round, and then he got another 2 takedowns in the 5th. So I thought they scored it right. I thought it was 48-47 Volkanovski.
Well, honestly, I would have never even thought that. Like I thought that I would have imagined both of us agreeing. Crazy that we disagree, which is fine. It's actually kind of cool that we disagree on certain things like this.
Yeah, it's good to disagree. You can't agree.
For conversation purposes.
Yeah. No, I think I'm a huge Volkanovski fan. I like Holloway a lot. I like
fighter. I mean, how can you not be a fan of him?
Exactly. I think that based on striking, I think he is the second best striker in the UFC behind Israel. I'm going to put it out there. I know people are going to say Conor's the best striker or Dustin Poirier.
I give him top 5.
I think he's definitely top 5. Here's the thing with Ortega. You go back and you watch the Korean Zombie fight, and he looked amazing. I mean, it was the best Brian Ortega's ever looked. He won every single round. It was a dominant performance from him. The problem was, even though he looked dominant, there were areas in that fight that I think Volkanovski is going to exploit, and he's going to exploit them very well.
Because, you're fighting against something like Korean Zombie compared to Volkanovski is like it's a complete difference. Like it's not the same caliber. So you are definitely right on that.
I think a big area of this fight, and it's a big area of the fight for Volkanovski in every fight, it's those inside low kicks, man. Those inside, outside low kicks. He chains them together with his combinations. He's really good at hiding it behind his jab. He did it against Mendez, and that actually led up to the combination that led to the finish up against the cage. He's very good at timing it with his jab. So as you go to slip the jab and you're heavy on your lead leg, he can chop that leg as he's throwing the jab. They almost come at you at the exact same time. And the fact that
it's a deadly combination, if you ask me.
It's what?
It's a deadly combination.
Exactly. And another thing, Ortega has never fought anybody who uses fakes and feints like Alexander Volkanovski.
Very true.
There's nobody in that division at 145 besides, I would say, Conor, but Conor's not there anymore, who uses fakes and feints as well and as effective as a Volkanovski. He never throws a combination without setting it up. If you watch all of his fights, I watched the Mendez fight and both Holloway fights. I watched those today. And if you go back and watch it, everything he did was set up. He kind of reminds me of like, if you know, like the Newton's cradle, that thing where you throw like the little science thing where you throw the balls back and forth to each other and they kind of hit and it goes like ding, 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 ding. I kind of see him as that. And I know it kind of sounds weird, but he's a guy where if he's coming forward, he's going to be landing shots on you because he's very effective. But when you come at him, he's going to be there to counter you. So anywhere this fight takes place, whether he's coming forward or he's countering you, he kind of has you trapped anywhere that you go.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
I think obviously you can't go to the ground with Ortega. If the fight goes to the ground, if he gives up his back like he did in the Mendez fight, there was a point where he got dropped by Chad and then he was able to spin around and take the back. You do that against Ortega and you're getting submitted. It doesn't matter who you are.
100%.
That's how it's going to go. But I think the fakes and feints, I really think intelligence is going to be the difference in this fight. I think skill-wise, Ortega has gotten a lot better. But I think that the perfect fight for him to show off those skills was the Korean Zombie, because Zombie doesn't have any defense. He doesn't have any head movement, and he kind of just walks forward on you like a zombie. That's where he got his name from. Yeah. Of course, you're going to run into spinning elbows. Of course, you're going to run into front kicks to the face. Of course, you're going to run into, straight punches when you don't move your head at all. Volkanovski moves his head. Volkanovski changes his stances. Volkanovski chains his kicks and punches together and vice versa. And you're kind of trapped anywhere that you go. And I think that I'm going to say this, on the feet, the best weapon that Ortega can use is either his uppercut or his elbows on the counter, because Volkanovski got caught with a lot of uppercuts from Max Holloway. Because Volkanovski's a shorter guy. He's not that tall. He kind of keeps his chin down and he kind of rolls with his punches, but he kind of tries to throw an overhand and then he'll crowd you and he'll really just get really close to you so you can't go anywhere. If you lower your level against a guy like Brian Ortega, one, you could leave your neck out for a guillotine. Two, you can leave your neck out for that uppercut up the middle. I think it would play into the hands of Ortega to land that uppercut, use a lot of fakes and throw those uppercuts. And I also think that front leg side kick that he used against the Korean Zombie, that can play a big factor, because one thing Holloway was able to use to stifle some of that forward movement was that front leg stomp to the knee. Whenever Volkanovski would get a little bit too close, he would stomp on his knee. And you saw Volkanovski kind of like, he would kind of be like, okay, like, yeah, you got me. Like, and then he'd have to reset. So that's what Ortega has to do. I just don't think he has the tools to get it done.
So what's your big prediction here? This is kind of a tough one to predict, like a round and a finish or a decision.
It's tough. I do think that if Volkanovski, I do think he can get a knockout here. I think this is one of the fighters that probably favor him the most in terms of getting a knockout. I think Holloway is almost impossible to knock out. You watch that. You see the Poirier fight. It's pretty self-explanatory. Chad Mendez, he knocked him out. That was a good win for Volkanovski. That's really when he broke onto the scene. I think
I started following him at least.
Yeah, I think early on it's going to be Brian Ortega in the first round. I think he's going to get ahead a little bit. But I think that as the fight goes on, it's kind of going to be like a Peter Yan situation where he's going to get more comfortable and he's going to start not coasting, but he's going to start taking over. And once Volkanovski takes over, I think it's just going to be too much. I think let me see. Let me see. How am I going to call this? I think he hurts Ortega he throws that lead body kick. And when he pulls it back, he fires that straight right down the middle. I think he catches him up against the cage. Ortega kind of shells up. He goes to shoot a takedown. Volkanovski stuffs it, keep him up against the cage, and knocks him out via TKO. I think the volume and the power of Volkanovski is just going to be too much for Ortega. So I'm going to go with a third round KO for Volkanovski.
Okay. I like it. See, I was leaning towards Volkanovski, but you know what? Because I am such a Brian Ortega fan, because I personally, he was my favorite coach on the Ultimate Fighter this past season.
Okay.
And I really do. I truly do see him I don't know if it's going to happen this Saturday. I would like it to happen this Saturday, but I definitely see him eventually becoming a champion of the division.
Yeah.
I truly do. And because I'm such a fan of him, I think I'm just going to, you know what? I think I'm going to take him as the favorite here. I'm going to take him to win via submission.
Okay.
And I think he's going to bring back out that jumping guillotine that he did against Cub Swanson.
Okay. I like it. So what round?
I think it's going to be early on. I think it's going to be round 2 or 3. I'm going to go with 3 just to be safe.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a pick. I think if Ortega gets a finish, it's going to be by submission, and his guillotine is probably one of the strongest in the UFC. So yeah. I think guillotine.
I was going to go with a triangle because his nickname is Cheese City.
Yeah,
but that'd be too plain. And you know what? He's due for a submission victory. I feel like.
I like it.
So I want people. I feel like people forget how good his jiu-jitsu actually is. So I feel like he's going to try and showcase it.
I agree. I think I think if he gets a win, it's going to be by submission. I think if it happens by submission, it's going to be by guillotine. So I would agree. I'm going to go with, I think, what did I say? Third round? I think I said third round. Third round TKO for Volkanovski against the cage. So and still, and then you got an and new. So
I would love to see it. I really would, because I don't know, just like his. I don't know if you've ever watched the. I don't know what fight it was, but he had a video with one of the ESPN analysts. They went on like a drive along with him.
Yeah.
To like where he grew up at.
I saw it.
Came from just to see all like the background of it. I don't know. I would just love to see him win this fight.
No,
and he's very close with one of my buddies that was on the Ultimate Fighter. It all just kind of adds up. I would love to see it.
Right. No, I think Ortega is definitely a live dog here. The case for Volkanovski, at least in my eyes, that it's been throughout his entire career, is nobody gives him credit for how good that he is. And I know you have, so I'm not saying you, because I mean, you obviously talked about it, but every fight that Volkanovski has had, he's been picked against. When he fought Aldo, I think everybody picked Aldo. When he fought Max the first time, everybody picked Max. When he fought Max the second time, a little bit more people picked Volkanovski, but it was a lot of Max talk. I think this is the fight where he makes a statement, and he should have been getting the recognition this whole time because he is so technical and so good on the feet, and he's one of the most well-rounded mixed martial artists on the planet. And he's definitely, I think, one of the smartest fighters in MMA.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think that Volkanovski comes from a better camp. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely comes from a better camp, because I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't he trained with the same camp as Israel Adesanya, right?
Yeah, he trains out of City Kickboxing with Izzy and I think Shane Young's down there, Dan Hooker's over there, Brad Riddell. He's got one of the best camps in the world. He also trains out of Freestyle. I think it's called Freestyle Fighting Gym. That's another gym he works at. There's a guy on Instagram named, if you look him up, his name's Colby Thicknesse, like Thicknesse. And me and him actually went back and forth in the DMs. He's one of Volkanovski's like main training partners. I think he's only like 22. But he's in amateur MMA. He's got a few fights under his belt. So yeah, if you guys know, if you guys want to check him out, look up Colby Thickneys on Instagram. But yeah, I think I'm going in still, and you're going in new, and I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So we covered every fight. I think we broke down everything in about as much detail. Yeah, I think we broke down things in as much detail as we could. Obviously, the fight takes place this Saturday on September 25th. I believe this one's in Vegas. Is it? Okay. Is it at the is it at the Apex, or are they gonna have fans?
No, it's gonna be at whatever the arena is that they always like that they fight at. For I think wherever the counter fight was last.
T-Mobile Arena. Yeah.
Gonna be there.
Okay. All right. Well.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, I had a great time breaking down these fights. I think.
Appreciate you having me on.
No problem, man. My pleasure. I told you I'd get you on eventually. It just took a little bit longer than I thought.
Yeah. No. I'm glad to finally get on here. It was awesome.
Yeah. I will. We can probably make this a regular thing for all the big cards. So as long as we can figure out the schedule, I'm down to break down all the pay-per-views like this.
For sure. You can count me in.
All right. I'll talk to you later, man. This was great, and have a good night. You want to say anything before we get it going?
No. I think we about covered everything.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Thank you.